JPMorgan Chase Bank is planning to replace many of their bankers with AI specialists over the years. But they're not the only bank that's replacing traditional bankers with AI agents or AI specialists. In fact, over 200,000 banking jobs could be eliminated or heavily displaced over the next several years, and 54% of banking jobs have a, quote, high potential for automation. But more on how AI is replacing and completely disrupting the banking industry in just a moment. I want to take a closer look at what's happening at JPMorgan Chase Bank, because you don't just need to take my word for it. Listen to what the CEO, Jamie Dimon, says, because he lays out their exact strategy for how they're going to be rolling out AI in their organization. Quote, there will be all different types of jobs, and I think we will be hiring more AI people and fewer bankers in certain categories, and it will make them more productive. And then he continues and says, I think it will reduce our jobs down the road. So again, what's interesting, and keep this in mind because we're going to look at 4 different banks and how they're using AI messaging in their strategy. I think it's really interesting. Okay, the way that you lay out AI replacement is very, very important from a PR standpoint. And I think Jamie Dimon is kind of a masterclass in this as we kind of continue this, right? Because what he's basically saying is that we are laying off some people, but we're going to be hiring different people. We just need different skills. We're going to be shifting things around. Yes, we're using AI, but we need to shift things around in order to meet our customer needs. He does continue by saying, I think it will reduce our jobs down the road, which, you know, we'll see. He's kind of slow rolling. He's kind of hiding the ball a little bit, slow rolling it. Anyway, he continues that their strategy is going to be more aligned with standard attrition to replace staff. So basically, JPMorgan Chase has about a 10% attrition rate. They'll have about 25 to 30,000 people churn out annually. And in the past, they would replace them and retrain them as bankers. But in the future, his plan is to replace them with more AI-centric and AI-integrative roles, which again is one of the things I've been talking about on this channel a lot. AI is going to displace everything. It's pretty important that you learn how to adapt this technology and frankly, learn how to use AI to replace the tasks and jobs that you do now. If you can replace your work with AI, then you become very, very valuable to other organizations. And I've also mentioned that the one way you don't want to replace yourself is just by clicking buttons and having your company track and manage and monitor all of your clicks. This is kind of what got Meta into trouble. I'll post a link to it here. Meta decided they were going to start tracking all their employees' mouse clicks, and the employees didn't like it very much. You don't want to be replaced by a company monitoring your mouse clicks. You want to replace yourself by understanding how AI works and how to implement it. That's, anyway, a quick aside. Regardless, Dimon added that he plans to retrain the staff, redeploy workers, or even offer early retirement. And their goal at JPMorgan Chase is to avoid large-scale layoffs. So that's the JPMorgan Chase, Jamie Dimon approach to AI integration and replacement within the organization. Let's take a look at another example here, which is a different approach from the massive global bank Standard Chartered, which is headquartered out of London. And we covered this story a couple days ago. I'll post a link to it here because their approach at Standard Chartered is very different than JPMorgan Chase. So Standard Chartered announced they were going to be laying off 7,000 jobs in an effort to, quote, lower value human capital. They want to replace, quote, lower value human capital, end quote, with AI and automation. And that term there, those 4 words, I don't know that their CEO had very much PR training. I don't think he was media trained because he went out and said, quote, lower value human capital, end quote, with a straight face. I think that was a pretty dumb thing to do. Anyway, the comment got a lot of attention, and particularly from regulators from Hong Kong and Singapore. Ouch. Ouch. Now you got to deal with that. But again, these are not the only banks that are replacing traditional bankers with AI agents and AI implementers. The HSBC CEO, George Eldery, said, quote, we all know generative AI will destroy certain jobs and will create new jobs. Again, all these guys are saying it. Like, you can't bury your head in the sand on this stuff, guys. But listen to what George says next, because he takes an even different approach to Jamie Dimon or Standard Chartered. He said, quote, my initial mission is I need 200,000 colleagues with us on this journey. However, many will be left at the end of the, or quote, however many will be left at the end of the journey isn't my problem. Oof, George. It is your problem, and especially if you're gonna say it out loud on public media, because that is not the type of thing that the internet takes lightly when you say, however many human beings are left in my organization is not my problem. Well, now it is your problem. Anyway, he continues. The problem is how can we make sure that those 200,000 colleagues have been given all the capabilities, the training, the tools to make themselves future ready, be more productive versions of themselves. Okay, George, that's better. I like that a lot better, but you know, it's just crazy the things that some of these CEOs say out loud. Like, don't you understand that many, like a very high percentage of data centers are being shut down now? Dude, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this. Tap the like or type the like or leave a comment below if you saw this, but just last week, UCF valedictorian was giving a commencement speech at the end of the year, and she had mentioned that she was excited that AI was going to bring on the new revolution, and everyone started booing her. And she's not the only one. This has happened a few times this week. Guys, people are not, I don't know what these people think. Like, for me, I'm excited about AI. I think there's a lot of cool things that are happening. There's a lot of cool opportunities. I'm doing some cool stuff with AI. I'm excited about it. But don't get it twisted. There's going to be a lot of short-term pain, and the people rolling around using words like lower value human capital or however many will be left at the end of the journey isn't my problem. You're kind of like losing the thread here. This is not good messaging. You're not getting people on your side when you use words like this. Goldman Sachs is another interesting bank that I think is worth looking at. They just released a new wave of AI agents, a bunch of AI agents into their, quote, human assembly line. Their goal is to automate a large part of their human assembly line. Now, what's interesting here is more similar to the Jamie Dimon approach over at JPMorgan Chase. The president and chief operating officer, John Walden, said that it would not spark mass layoffs. So guys, we are in a really interesting time, you know, and if you've been subscribed to the channel, you know we're covering this stuff 6 days a week. So thank you for being here. Thanks for being part of this community. I love the comments. I love seeing you guys. But one of the things that was interesting that we were kind of talking about 4 or 5, maybe 6 months ago was a company would be having like a bad fiscal quarter, bad fiscal year, shares were down, etc. And then they would just say, hey guys, we're going to lay off a bunch of people. We're going to use AI to replace them. And the shareholders went crazy. The stock would spike. We are seeing that is not happening anymore. Sometimes it'll happen, but it is definitely not happening all the time. And what we're kind of seeing now, in my experience and expertise reading this stuff, is it's kind of the opposite. When a company comes out and saying we're going to lay off tens of thousands or tens of thousands of people and replace them with AI, you have just made yourself public enemy number one. So the way that these big CEOs, COOs kind of talk about your employment strategy, it's got to change. You guys have lost the thread. We have two different approaches here with these 4 different banks. One approach is we're going to slowly phase AI agents in. We're going to test it. We're going to be slow. We're going to be methodical. We're going to train our staff. And then we have another approach that says we're moving fast and you can either get with it or GTFO. Which message, which strategy, which vision do you think is playing better both in the media and internally within your organization? I gotta say, I like Jamie Dimon is a smart dude. I like his approach a lot better. We're moving, especially in a heavily regulated industry like banking, or if you look at stuff like insurance or taxes, like you can't just roll in and like in sales, you can move fast and break things, right? So we see companies like Salesforce a few weeks ago. I'll post a link to it here. We covered a company called Monaco, which is kind of using AI to automate it. But like in sales, you can move fast and break stuff. But when you're in accounting, when you're in insurance, when you're in banking, you got the SEC watching you. You got to be more careful because let's face it, guys, AI is going to screw stuff up. And you don't want to be on the end of a stick with regulators or clients where AI does something crazy. And we've, of course, witnessed and covered quite a few situations like that. In any event, we'll see which approach wins out. But at the end of the day, I do believe that learning this new technology and learning how to solve your own problems with this technology, learning how to replace tasks and replace work that you do and build out frameworks and systems to do so is a really good place to be in. And that's where I'm at right now. You know, how do I solve my problems with AI? How do I save my time with AI? How do I build out a clear framework and lay it out in a way that makes sense? And you can't do it all at once. We have to take it step by step. And that's where I'm at. Anyway, thanks for watching the video today. If you like the video, like, subscribe. And definitely check out yesterday's video where we cover yet another firing. We're at Intuit, where Intuit lays off 3,000 employees to deploy AI agents. This year is getting crazy. I've said this time and time again, 2026 is the year that companies look at AI as an employee, not just as a tool. This is the year of the AI agent. It's the year of the AI employee. Check out yesterday's video about Intuit. I think it'll knock your socks off. I'll see you there. Peace.